everybody, welcome back to another episode of You Haven't Seen That Podcast, regular breakdown edition. I'm Isaac.
I'm Elva.
And this is a show where we cover movies on that growing list of films that has people asking us the question, you haven't seen that? Yep, actual breakdown. We're sticking true to our word, and we're doing it. Oh, man.
Bow.
Jesus Christ. I hate it. Like, I hate it as it's happening. But then in post, I'm like, what an adorable thing. But then as it's happening, I'm like, I'm going to...
It's become my signature thing.
Contain my emotions. I'm an adult. Okay. But before we do that, before we get into our movie, before we tell you what the thing is, because you're going to listen anyways, get down to business. If you haven't been doing so already, follow us on social media at...
YHST Pod.
On Instagram and TikTok. Yell it to them, darling. Tell them where to find us.
YHST Pod.
Oh, boy. And then, of course, if you want to support us, you can do that at...
YHST Pod.
On Venmo. In fact, in a couple of days from you listening to this, it's going to be my birthday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And if you want to buy me a drink, a birthday drink, go to Venmo and drop a couple dollars.
At YHST Pod. Get that man a drink.
Get me drunk, please. It's my birthday. It's my 35th birthday, and I don't want to remember it.
But you're going to remember it, because I'm going to let you remember.
That means because she's not going to let me drink. Yeah, we're covering Pride and Prejudice, as we said on the previous episode. If you didn't listen to it, why haven't you been doing that? Aren't you listening to every single episode? I was a little, not apprehensive about watching it, but
you were apprehensive.
I was like, Pride and Prejudice, it sounds boring. It sounds like a snore. You wanted to do it not only because it was on our list, because I hadn't seen it, but because...
It's the 20th anniversary of its release, and it got put back in theaters.
Yeah, re-release, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to experience... Because when this movie came out, I was in high school, and I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters.
Because this came out in 2005.
Yeah. So I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters, so finally I had my chance, and I needed to see it. I fell in love with the movie all over again.
I will say, off the bat, I actually enjoyed the movie. I know I hinted at it in the previous episode, but in case you didn't listen to that, go back and listen to that one because we did talk about Sinners. Great breakdown. So yeah, full breakdown of this movie, which I'm gonna sort of guide it, but then Elva's gonna take most of the reins because she's like, oh my God, I have all the fun facts and all the things behind it. And she was trying to drop some of them fun facts on the previous episodes. Like, we're gonna save it.
I was trying so hard not to.
Chapping at the bit. How do you want to slice this thing? How do you want to chop it up, huh? How do you want to introduce it?
Well, let's go with your opinion of like how you thought, or like why did it take you so long to not see it?
Because it sounded like a girly girl flick rom-com 17th century or whatever it was, 1700.
Yeah.
It wasn't up my alley.
Okay.
And even still, without us doing this podcast, without you taking us to go see it. In fact, I was kind of happy that we were breaking this down, that we saw it in the theaters. Now, everything else that we have been covering as far as a breakdown, we've been seeing it like streaming, which is cool, but you're at home. We don't have the big movie setup with the biggest screen TV or,
surround sound.
Yeah, no surround sound or anything like that. It's like it's very standard. And it does the job in our lovely little humble abode. But I like seeing movies in theaters with the full experience. It's again, I personally think you're supposed to see movies in that setting.
And I like that we saw it there because there was no temptation. Because I know when we were watching movies at home, we were kind of like on our phone for a bit. Then we kind of do this and we lay down. But like, I need him to like lock in.
Yeah, exactly.
And see this movie because not only is it one of my favorite movies, but I want you to experience like what I feel when I see this movie.
Yeah. And not only that, but because it's a re-release, meaning everyone else other than fucking me has seen it, then we were seeing it with other people that have seen it. So I didn't realize it was such like a fucking cultural thing, the way people, and we're gonna go see the re-release of Star Wars this weekend because I thought, you know what, it was so fun to experience that, rewatch something in the theaters. But anyway, so like people were dressed up and everyone was like anticipating certain parts. And I wanted to get annoyed by it, but I go, no, I'm the odd man out who hasn't seen it. I was treating it as if it was a new movie that we hadn't seen, a new release.
And the fact that I know like you would look at me and I was like basically like kicking my feet, like, for certain scenes. And I'm just like, but the fact that it just felt like I'm seeing a movie in theaters.
Yeah.
And I can giggle at these parts, but I won't be alone just giggling because there's like this whole group of other girls next to me that are giggling and all this other stuff.
And because it's such a good movie and such a well acted and just everything about it, except one little thing, and I'll probably get in front of it before we even begin. Everything about it was so well done that I was able to lock into it and enjoy all those little funny bits and tee hee hee and giggle along with everyone. So short of Elva actually dressing up, yeah, we giddily went to go see it. Now, I joke about being apprehensive. Like, oh God, it's going to be boring. Just because of it re-releasing and just hearing the buzz about everyone talk about it. Hell, even the fact that it got not a spinoff, like Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies was created. I was like, oh, people were doing their takes off of the original Jane Austen Pride and Prejudice. So there must be something about it, obviously.
There are 17 adaptations of this.
Jesus.
With, I think, the 2005 being the top one.
Yeah, that's the one that kept popping up. But I know what Colin Firth was
in the
Mr. Darcy one.
1995 for BBC. That was like a
straight to television?
A short like TV series, like 6 episodes kind of thing. Which I like because I think you can focus on certain aspects when it's like an episode. There has been one since, I don't know, like 1940 something or other. Like they go all the way back, and some are just like little TV miniseries and things like that. And of course, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. But like they all have like their own.
By the way, we're covering Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
Yeah, Lily James is in that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Matt Smith.
Yeah.
As Collins. I was like, dude, no, he's too charming. Sorry, I'm jumping around.
No, but like the fact that Jane Austen wrote this book back in 1797.
Jesus.
And just from it being published at 1813. But the thing that makes this one different is this one is set from the year that she started writing.
Got it. Well, where were the other ones at? In the 1800s?
Yeah, 1813. Once it was released.
Why is that?
Everyone wanted, I guess it's their take. Maybe they want to just do it because the book was released at that time. But Joe Wright did want to focus more on not on the Regency era.
Director Joe Wright.
Yeah, because he didn't like that era.
Oh, fun.
So he wanted to focus more on, I have it here.
By the way, as you're looking that up, when are we going to get like a Leonardo DiCaprio Romeo and Juliet version of this? Like a contemporary, heightened, surreal version of this thing where they're still talking Victorian talk? That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Come on.
Shakespearean.
Yeah.
The other one, he basically focused on the Georgian era where it was King George the First, Second, Third, and Fourth, which is the last reigning king for this. And hit that, like the fact that this era is from like 1714 to 1830, but the outfits changed. The costume design for most of it is set in the late 1700s, with the only person that doesn't have that same attire, which is Mr. Bingley's sister, because she is of upper class.
Charlotte? No. Caroline.
Mm-hmm. Because she is upper class, she is most likely to get these other newer fashion things that are coming in. If you really pay attention, her waistline is an empire waist, which is kind of like all the way up to her chest in a way. And everyone else still kind of has like that waistline a little bit lower, maybe like corset-ish setting kind of thing. So like those little differences make a lot in this movie.
I'm a guy. I didn't notice those subtle differences, but I think if you were to show me like a side-by-side comparison, I probably would have more of an appreciation for something like that. You said before that they've been little miniseries here and there. I know you mentioned in the last episode that they're coming out with the Netflix miniseries, 6-episode, 4-episode. What do you know? Any information about that?
Hold on.
No set director or anything, right? Other than it's going to be, what info do you have on it?
Hold on.
I'm asking so many questions.
So we have Dolly Alderton to write Pride and Prejudice, and that's starring Emma Corrin and Jack Lowden, with Olivia Colman as Mrs.
Bennett, yeah. Olivia Colman, I could totally see that franticness. Mrs. Bennett.
But I don't know who's directing it. They haven't released that besides those three.
But we have that to look forward to dropping on Netflix. Finally, after another 20 years, another version of it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
This is your Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah,
that's what I've noticed. Like we talked about in the last one, that those who love the Pride and Prejudice, everyone has their Mr. Darcy, everyone has their Elizabeth. The way that what did I equate it to? The way that nerds have their Batmans.
Yeah. I also like the 1995 Pride and Prejudice, the BBC one. But if I would have to like pick, it would be this one. I don't know if it's just because the actors or how they're portraying a little bit more, like the difference in emotions and stuff like that.
Okay.
It shows.
I mean, I will note it, like, you know, I did have to sort of lock in and pay attention to what they were saying because it was very Victorian talk. It was extremely proper, thrown out with a British accent. So there was like a moment or three where maybe a joke or a comment went over my head, and I had to like, you know, when I had to rewatch for notes, and I looked at, he was like, wait, what was the situation? Like, well, so and so was this. Hey, he had this problem. Like, damn, I totally was lost on me. It was one of the first times I was like, I need to watch it with captions because it's so. It isn't just like a will they won't they story for those who aren't familiar with Pride and Prejudice, but there's so much involved, like people cross so and so and of the time they need to marry off so they can actually make a living off of what is that called, a dowry?
Yeah. So basically you're getting married off, making sure that you're right, because if the father died, they don't have any money. The money does not go to the women. It has to go to a man.
That's crazy. Which is the situation your dad and I, the agreement that we have. So he pays me to be married to you.
Sure. Okay. I thought it was the other way around, but whatever.
No. But you were saying before, like, so I haven't seen any of the other Pride and Prejudice, fucking duh, obviously. But the one thing that was, not just the one thing, but this film felt cinematic is a fucking cheap word to use, but not just the acting, and go super nerd, the lighting was beautiful. Nothing was overdone. Everything was just right. Even though it was like a romance, you know, yeah, you could probably do like a soft glow, and that's so done. This felt warm. It felt rich. That's the word. It felt rich. And again, going nerdy, so I do this, but I was tripping out and how cool the camera dynamics were. You know, the when they were like dolly panning, or there's a scene at the private ball where it's a one shot.
Yeah,
the whole thing's a oneer.
So it's a one shot with two cameras. So it's like amazing. You have one camera focusing here and the other one, but it's all just continuously one. Where you have the dancers who are, you know, they have to go around. Basically, they're like, it's kind of like a play in a way. You have to like run behind stage and go back, and to the point where there's one part in this movie where Elizabeth Bennet, she just got done dancing with Mr. Darcy, and she has to run around.
Oh, right.
And it ends that whole scene ends with kind of like just her at the wall. She wasn't out of breath, but she was like, it looked like she was kind of having like, you know, that moment where you're like, I'm about to sigh or whatever with a person. You're like, that's the kind of moment that she had.
It came off as that, but actually she's out of breath.
Like, yeah, she's out of breath. And I'm like, but that's perfect because she maintained, she like, you can even see her sigh, like breathing out, and it just like, okay, cool.
I think what's more impressive about that is the fact that, like, we've seen Wonders. I know, like, we've seen Wonders before, we've seen Wonders after, but it's the fact that you have this whole ballroom, this whole hall full of people, and you have to choreograph everyone around all of that. Not one dancer can fuck up. Not one person in the background can miss their mark. And so, yes, you have your focus on your main actors, the Bennett family and the Darcys and the Bingleys and Collins. But
the Pemberleys.
Who the hell are the Pemberleys?
Darcy.
Oh, he's the Pemberley. Okay. So yeah, like that's one of the really technical scenes that was extremely impressive. But it's the other small things. It's like how they imply the passage of time with lighting changes. There's one scene in particular where Elizabeth is spinning on a tire, and it's just little simple things like that. Like, it's the little things in movies that you're not supposed to overthink, but it's so well incorporated that it just flows into something that's not stagnant. Because, you know, I mean, to be a fucking 34 going on 35-year-old guy, like, these era movies can be a little stuffy. And you're throwing a romance, you're like, ugh. I'm like, dude, is there no fighting or war? I'm going to fall asleep.
Right.
But no, like, this movie was filled with everything. Something for the film lovers, something for the romance lovers, all of it.
Comedy in there. Like,
oh my God.
Like the comedic moments of like how
Colin steals the scene.
Yeah. Exemplary vegetables. But no, the fact that I had to restrain myself when we went to the theaters to go see it, to not say the lines as it's happening, was torture.
That's fine. No, that's totally fine because the group of girls that we were sitting, they're all in like the back row with us. Everyone's really giggling ahead.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn it, let me fucking enjoy it.
But no, because you're right next to me. Like, those are the other, like, I don't have control of anybody else's reactions, but I can control, like, mine. But there's one where Elizabeth Bennet's, like, spinning on the
tire swing.
No, it's like a little plink. But on the swing. And
I said tire swing.
Yeah, I was like, there's no tires back then. It's just a plank. It's a plank. It's just a regular swing.
She's swinging on a car engine.
And
so stupid. She's swinging on a Tesla steering wheel.
And Charlotte comes up and she basically says that she's engaged to Mr. Collins.
Yeah.
But like the disgust in her face, like, Mr. Collins, really,
don't judge me.
You're like, but you can tell that she wanted more for her friend.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the time, you really can't have more. You know, you can't be like
you're an old maid at that point.
Yeah, and she's what was it? I'm 27. I have no money, no prospects. I'm a burden to my parents, and I'm afraid. And as it's going on, I'm like, I want to say it with you, Charlotte, but I can't.
You know, when Alva and I first got together 2 years in, that's when she said the same thing to me. She's like, I'm 23. I'm without prospects.
23. I have no money and no prospects. I'm a burden to my parents.
Fine. It shall be adequate. I shall marry you.
Exemplary vegetables. These boiled potatoes.
So before we get even deeper into it, we're going to bounce around. I'm not going to do my scene for scene shit. But like before we bounce around, I will fucking notate the one thing that I, you know what? Dislike is too soft a word. I hated. There's something about this movie that I fucking hated. And for me, it ruined some of these scenes and some of the shots because it happened not once, but about a dozen times. And unless like the director in some kind of commentary thing has said why he's done it, it was unnecessarily, which was the zooming. Now, typically in movies, when you quote unquote zoom in on a subject or in a scene, you're physically moving the camera closer or, you know, pulling away from the thing. That's the only way that you do it, because something is unnatural about actually zooming in, or unless you're doing a dolly zoom, which is that push-pull effect that like Alfred Hitchcock, or you might have seen it in Jaws. But there's these moments where it, you know, it's not even like a big scene or anything like that, but just, you know, even in the big scenes, they just, you know, they focus on a character and instead of just letting it sit and maybe the camera's moving around, they'll start to like zoom in a little bit, but not slowly. It was just like boom, zoom in and then zoomed out. And zoom in. I'm like, what's happening right now?
Oh, yeah.
Who's in control of the zoom and why are they doing that? And why aren't they fired? And did anybody notice it? Was it intentional? So it really bothered me. In fact, on one of like the last scenes, and it was like a big emotional, not the last scene, but like third, fourth to last, it was an emotionally filled, an emotionally charged scene. And then there's that zooming, and I'm like, God, cut it out. Like I wanted to yell back 20 years ago and be like, stop it.
Stop.
Whatever you're doing, fucking stop it. It's not necessary. Those scenes, anytime it was used, did not fucking need it. And it, like, for me being a very technical nerd, surprise, surprise, it bummed me out. It annoyed me, and it ruined those scenes for me.
And I didn't
I
didn't notice it until yesterday when you were rewatching it, just to kind of go over everything. And I'm just like, why did you have to tell me about the zooms? I was fine.
Sorry.
But I think the scene was where they're visiting Miss Bennett and her aunt and uncle are visiting the Pemberley.
It's a handful. It really is a handful of scenes. Even from the beginning.
But when you pointed to like the zooms, that's the scene that was like where Mr. Darcy runs after her and basically is like, yes, I know. And I'm just like,
actually we were walking out of the theater, movie was over, and you know, I'm like, wow, I really liked it. And it's kind of, you know, our usual rundown. I go, but there's fucking one thing that bothered me. You stopped dead in your tracks and you like fucking whipped your head around. And you're like, what one thing did you
will not ruin this movie for me?
And I was like, well, I mean, it was the zoom. You're like, oh, okay.
Okay, I was like, you will not. I was like, if you say something about a character, I will punch you.
No,
right
no,
here.
no. Speaking of characters, so Keira Knightley, this whole thing is basically focused around Keira Knightley's character, Elizabeth Bennet, who is the one sister amongst five. Can you name off all the sisters? Top of your head, don't cheat.
Lydia, Mary, Jane. There's Elizabeth, and I don't know the other one.
And there's Susan.
Oh,
You forgot Susan.
Kitty.
I'm kidding.
Kitty.
Yeah. And so the entire thing is like the mom, Mrs. Bennet, is trying to marry them off. I love the mom's franticness, but towards the very end of the movie, like the third act, where she's like in bed, she's like, my nerves, because one of the daughters ran away. Was it Lydia?
Yeah, it was Lydia ran away with.
And she's like, my nerves are shot. Don't you know what you guys are doing to me? I'm like, hey, relax. My parental emotional generational trauma fucking kicked in. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't like that a parent's trying to control someone's life so fucking hard. But what was the sort of reprieve from that is the fact that Mr. Bennet, wonderfully played by Donald Sutherland, which I didn't expect to see him. He's the only like American person in this. Great casting, because he portrays, also R.I.P., he portrays a sweet father, even though he does also need to marry everyone off because they're not making a lot of money. They're like, it's what we would consider in 2025 like a grand estate, but they're sort of on the impoverished country side of it, which gets pointed out by Dame Judi Dench, Lady Catherine, right?
Yeah,
fucking just very rudely points that shit out a couple of times, and thanks to Lizzie for standing up for her family. But that's kind of like the basis of what the story is surrounding. But I wanted to focus on Keira Knightley for a second, because you told me the year, and I was like, wait a second, 2005. When did they shoot Pirates of the Caribbean? Because the first time I was introduced to Keira Knightley was Pirates of the Caribbean, and we looked it up. And this is just big to me, but it was the fact that Pirates of the Caribbean was done a couple of years prior, 2003. And this one came out 2 or 3 years after that one did. But the reason why I point that out is as we're watching Pride and Prejudice, I go, oh, wow, look how young Keira Knightley looks. And she looks so, like she looks like a teenager, and she's so soft in the face and everything like that. And to find out that, wait. This was a few years after Pirates of the Caribbean, because I remember her being like a pouty, gorgeous, hard-ass, badass as another Elizabeth Swann instead of this one. And then I realized what it was. It was the fact that in Pride and Prejudice, she's actually smiling.
Yeah.
She smiles a couple times. In fact, I don't know if you were going to throw this fun fact out or saw it, but the director banned her from pouting. She has a very pouty face.
Yeah.
She's gorgeous, but and so you're like, yeah, it's Keira Knightley, and she's just like very smolder and pout, and then she smiles, and you're like, she is so adorable.
Like, what is it, when she was having that moment with her sister?
Yeah,
when they first met Mr. Bingley, and they're just having like this, like, sisterly like conversation and stuff like that, and they're both laughing, but the way that they focus just on Elizabeth's face, and she just has this big old grin, like little,
very
like a
giddy,
teenage,
girlish, yeah.
And I was like, oh, perfect, yeah.
It's lovely. I was impressed by and I recognize a lot of the sisters who they were played by, but their sisterliness, their interactions amongst one another was perfect. I forget what movie I first saw Rosamund Pike in, but she is stunning and properly plays Jane Bennet, who's supposed to be the gem of the family, like the prettiest one. And so, there are moments in the movie where other suitors are trying to ask for her hand in marriage, but Mrs. Bennet's like, well, I hate to tell you this,
she's already
already engaged. In fact, she has the eye of Mr. Bingley, who was adorable, but when they first introduce Mr. Darcy and the Bingleys, as they make their way into the common ball, right, with all the commoners and stuff, where it looked very hot and sweaty, honestly, that they had this air about them, and they looked very snooty, and Mr. Darcy, very strapping lad, but his friend, Mr. Bingley, I was like, oh, he's the redhead. Kind of looks like a doofus. And so I was really surprised, because remember, I'm not familiar with this movie, but I was really surprised that Jane took a liking to him immediately.
Yeah.
I go, what? You could do better. But he had money.
Yeah, so it was something about how they both caught each other's eye, like attention. But when Mr. Bennet is basically introducing the daughters and the family and everything, like this Miss Bennet and everything, you can see that Mr. Darcy's kind of like, I'm over it. And right when he's like, oh, that's Elizabeth. This is my daughter, Elizabeth,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. But before all that introduction, when they're walking in and then they're kind of just, everyone's kind of just like lined and like bowing, he catches Elizabeth. Like he is like intrigued by her because she's the only one that makes eye contact with him.
Ah, okay.
As they're walking down this thing. Here's the thing about this movie. It's the subtleties, the little small gestures. Like later on when he's helping her on the carriage and stuff like that, when he flexes his hand, she kind of sees that as a disgust. Like, oh, he touched me, a little poor me. And that's why he's kind of like.
I don't think she spotted that.
Her face kind of was just like, what? Why are they?
No. Okay. As a first time viewer, I didn't interpret that part as that. I interpreted it as, oh my gosh, this is the first time that we touched hands, in a very lingering kind of way. And he's like, oh, he shakes his, like he flexes his hand like, oh my God, a girl touched my hand. And then she's like, oh, he touched my hand. That's how I interpreted that. I didn't see it as like a disgust thing.
Well, no, because it all comes back to the first ball where he's basically, Mr. Bingley is asking him about like, oh, what do you think about Jane? And then he mentions Elizabeth and he basically calls her like, oh, I don't know, she's like really beneath me and everything. Where she throws it back, like when he'll tell her like, well, what would you do in like dancing? Well, only if your partner is tolerable.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, and thus the title of the movie, Pride and Prejudice, because they're trying to get over their own pride and prejudices. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad when she didn't immediately when Elizabeth didn't immediately take to Mr. Darcy, because man, do I hate a fucking vapid, boring, charmless character that everyone falls in love with just because he's good looking, And so I'm glad that he was very awkward and that she wasn't like, oh, I'm Elizabeth, Like she stood up for herself, because I mean that's sort of the brand of Jane Austen's books, is that she always has strong female characters.
Yes, so very strong female characters. Okay, so going back forward, we're going to be jumping around here and there. When her sister Jane is at Pemberley's and she's sick, and then you see Elizabeth come in, he's the only one that will stand up. And then was it Caroline? You can instantly see she doesn't have the confidence. Why is he standing up for poor little Elizabeth Bennet? Like no money, no class, no nothing. She's beneath us. And she walked there, and that's why she mentioned, did you walk here? And then she mentions like the 6 inches of mud on her dress. Yeah. And then after, when she leaves, she even makes another comment about it. But even when they're walking around and he's writing his letters, like after a couple scenes later, and he's writing letters, and Caroline's basically like, walk with me. Yeah. And they're kind of in a way like, teasing him. But Caroline says something like, oh no one must make fun of Mr. Darcy. Elizabeth's like, I'll take that as a challenge. Yeah. And calls him out on his shit. The only reason why Mr. Darcy becomes more intrigued with Miss Bennet is because she is the only one that is calling him out on everything. That he is the reason why he has to like look inwardly and change everything. Yeah. Because the whole thing is, he didn't do things for her. Like, he did things for her, but it was the actions of fixing everything that she's like, oh, he actually cared, but he just didn't know how. Right. So all these interactions between them,
typical men, huh?
Typical. But it's the whole thing of like him looking inwardly and kind of fixing all those things, to where even at the end where she runs off with aunt and uncle, and they're, viewing the house, the mansion, and the sister's playing and he's there, and then she makes a noise and she's running out. And the fact that he runs after her and wants to walk her back, doesn't want to, I'll take you in my carriage on the horse. He wants to walk her back because he knows that she loves walking places. That's the whole thing. When he even asks, like, do you and your sisters walk to town? Yes, we like to walk to town. The fact that he walked to her house at the end of the scene to basically profess his love one more time, and if this was the last time, then he's not going to ask anymore. He walked to her, no horses or anything, walked to her because he wants to understand why she likes walking. Like, there's... That's good. There's like these subtleties and everything that's like, Oh, okay.
So the first act of the movie is both of them trying to push past their not necessarily dislike for each other, but like they have their reasons to be stuck up about the other person because Darcy keeps to him, not necessarily keeps to himself, but like he fucking wears his snobbishness on his sleeve, the way he looks at everybody. You know, I mean, yeah, she caught that conversation at the common ball about like him, the way what he thinks about everyone else, right? But it's every little interaction, and that going back to it, like that's what I enjoyed about this is that no one's immediately jumping into the other person's arms, that they did earn their affection for one another through appreciating the other person's unique actions amongst this world of everything being proper and got to bow and all that fun stuff, right? That they have this very profound individualism, especially a female that has, I'm sorry, but no talents. She doesn't sing, she doesn't play, she doesn't draw.
Yeah. All the typical things that she should have a governess. Why is her governess not with her anymore?
Well, no, that's more of the family thing, but specifically for like the female herself, she's kind of plain looking, but of course we know Caroline is like gorgeous.
Yeah.
Which is like a good pairing against Rosamund Pike, who's like fucking, leagues. I'm being a guy. But it was so enjoyable, honestly, even for me, to see those little moments of like a hand touch, a glance, just these beats. Like their chemistry together was perfect. It was wonderful. So when you get in that basically it's a tug of war. When you get in that push and pull, because they want to fall for the other person, but they have the reasons why they aren't, because so and so said this, and because this person thinks that about them, and there's all these roadblocks. In fact, you want to jump to the rain proposal?
Yeah. So
that's like the crescendo, I feel, of their emotions. That's like the biggest scene. Is it safe to say that's the biggest scene in the movie? The rain proposal.
Oh my God, that rain proposal. I was like, ooh, you basically telling her, you're poor, you don't have class, your family's rude, I love you, marry me.
Well, which is
with a lot of more words.
But which is a really big thing of him to say. Like, yes, he's not very... he's without couth in how he presents those thoughts and ideas to her. But back then, there's a reason for it, because societally, someone of his status should marry someone along with that same status. So she's a few classes below him, and everyone in society says that's just not a good pairing. But in this part of the movie, I think that if she didn't find out that it was him that discouraged or dissuaded his friend Charles, was it
Bingley?
Charles Bingley, from pursuing Jane Bennett, then I think she would have fallen into his arms. That was her main point of contention. She had just found out from his friend that he put a stop to it. This is a really fun aspect about their personalities is they are both strong-headed, and they're both very loyal to the ones that they love.
Yes.
It's a fantastic trait, unfortunately, that also got in the way of the other person's loved ones being happy.
Yeah. And the fact that, like, during this whole thing, oh, yeah, your family, except you and your sister. I must exclude you and your sister. I'd be like, you can't exclude one or two and then expect not to, like, it's already the insult, but the fact that you're, like, excluding you and your sister because you fucked up. You made that mistake of telling Mr. Bingley to leave, to not see Jane because her family is rude and loud and won't fit in society and all this stuff. But I'm like, but you have over here Mr. Wickham trying to marry your sister only for the money. Finally, the sister didn't marry him because Mr. Wickham found out that he's not going to inherit the money from her. And he has like this grudge. And then he can't even like explain all this other stuff to her. And it has to be through a damn letter that he explains why Wickham is Wickham and why he doesn't talk to Wickham.
I also feel the same way as Darcy, where like in the moment I can be very emotional and say the wrong fucking things. But if you give me a moment and I'll write something out, I can say, not just say the right things, but, take a little bit of my emotion out of it and say it a little bit more delicately. By the way, Mr. Wickham, for those who haven't seen the movie, Wickham is a soldier, right? Now, he's introduced in a part of the movie where Elizabeth, his already kind of not taken to Darcy because he's just been so pent up. And here comes Wickham, who's a soldier, and soldiers are like the hot thing. Everyone wants a soldier. And he's charming and he's open and he can be witty along with Elizabeth and he can be sarcastic along with her.
But you kind of see, like, also when they first meet, she's kind of like, I don't know about you. We're in the ribbon shop where I think it's Lydia that asked her for money. And he does a thing, but she's already looking at them like those two would be a better pair than me and him.
Yep.
Like, and that's where I have to kind of go back to the subtleties of like these little looks and stuff like here. Because if you're just kind of looking at it and you're not even paying attention to like any subtleties in this movie, you're going to be like, this is a boring movie. What the heck?
Which is why I'm glad we saw it in the theaters. Because not to say I would be looking at my phone, but there'd be some distractions.
Yeah. So the fact that that was already like some foreshadowing in a weird way to like later on, you know, the sister running off with Mr. Wickham and then circling back to everything of like Mr. Darcy fixing his problems and like making a grand gesture of making sure that the sister is taken care of and basically paying for the wedding.
See, men have the redeeming qualities. But the one thing I wanted to point out was, and I don't know if this is of the era or just in Elizabeth's character, but like for her being not judgy, but what's the word I'm looking for? Apprehensive of people, waiting for their first impressions or whatever. And she's very trusting of Wickham, having just met him and already starting to like him and everything like that.
Yeah, well, in a way, like she has to find someone, so she's not going to be marrying Mr. Collins.
But what I'm saying is that scene under the tree where he's telling Elizabeth why him and Darcy were a bit standoffish, and then start spreading lies.
Yeah,
and so Elizabeth has no reason not to believe him.
Also, because like at that time, that's still where Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy were very much so indifferent with each other.
Yeah. Button heads.
Yeah, very stubborn. Because it was still like within the first beginning part of the movie. After that tree scene or whatever you see, or even before you see Mr. Bingham and Mr. Darcy going on the horse, clearly they're going to go
Mr.
invite...
Bingham?
Huh?
Mr. Bingham?
What did I say?
Bingley? I know. Every time I'm mentioning a character, I have to pause and go,
like, hold on.
Fuck, am I getting this right? You mix Bingley and Wickham.
See?
And she calls herself a fan.
Anyways, Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy are going, and I'm expecting them that they're going to go to see Jane to invite them to this private ball that he said he was going to throw, but only to shout over the little streams like, you must be there. The little sisters are like, please invite Mr. Wickham as well. I feel like the whole thing of like Wickham not being at the ball was all Mr. Darcy's
of course,
thing.
yeah.
Like,
He has power, his money.
But he rode off without even like, once he saw Wickham with her, it's like, no, I'm not even going to like spare anything, and just took himself away from that situation.
Right.
Which is like the smart thing to do. But at the same time, it's like, you're spending time with this family in a weird way, and you kind of have like this interest in the second oldest, but like you're just gonna walk away and have Mr. Wickham just not gonna try until later on.
That's the whole push and pull. I'm very happy that this movie didn't do like a cheap love triangle kind of thing. So I'm glad that Wickham wasn't present in most of the movie. He popped in, he had his influence enough to pit Elizabeth and Darcy further against one another. I love the payoff at the very end where even though Wickham does marry Lydia, that he's present enough in that final parts of the movie for Elizabeth to throw him some fucking daggers. Stare daggers at him.
Yeah.
Not literally throw daggers at him.
Yeah. And
although he deserved a fucking beating. I did want a little bit of a showdown.
Yeah.
Between him and Darcy.
Oh, definitely.
In the rain. And their petticoats.
Lydia is just one of those daughters who is just going to embarrass the family, and that's what Mr. Darcy was trying to like avoid.
Right.
To Mr. Darcy, she proved herself that was going to happen, and that happened before Lydia went to this party or
the private ball.
Yeah. No. When she runs off with Wickham, she never comes back. Like she went. Yeah. Lizzie goes to the dad's like, don't let her go. You have to like tell her. But because in a way he's like, I'm just trying to marry her off. I'm trying to marry you guys off.
Elizabeth has found out from Darcy, because at this point in the movie, Darcy and her have sort of made up. They're not exactly with one another, but
No.
they're now trusting each other more. So this is after she received a letter with Darcy explaining why Wickham is a thieving, lying asshole.
And she doesn't want her to go to that where there's going to be soldiers because Wickham is going to be there.
Right.
Yeah, Wickham is going to be there. And so Wickham knows that
Lydia's a flirt.
Yeah, that she's basically easy for grabbins and stuff.
For grabbins.
And so the fact that Wickham did that shows a lot to his character of like how he's only just
Took advantage.
Yeah. Even when they're leaving the Bennett's house at the end, when she's like, goodbye, I'll write to you, write to me. And then like pulls her down to sit down.
Oh,
I was that's their relationship right there.
They deserve one another because like when all the sisters, before anyone has a guy to be interested in, they're very giggly, but their dynamic amongst one another is sisterly. So you don't really get chances of seeing their individual personalities. But like when you have Lydia be the focus in one part of the movie, and after she gets married and they're having the breakfast or whatever, Lydia is so fucking obnoxiously braggadocious. She's like, oh my God, I just put my hand on the carrot so that the other person can see my ring.
Oh yeah. Sunset.
Oh my dear Mr. Wickham. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
You're such a child.
And the fact that like Mr. Darcy did something for them and said, do not speak of any of this. He's already shown that he is someone who once you're in his circle, you're in the circle. But once you betray him, you're out of that circle. There's no talking. You're way back in. And Mr. Darcy said, don't say anything to your sister. And she goes on and blabs. And I'm just like, but I feel like that was a moment where she's like, oh, he did this. And then she kind of like, no, fuck, I love him.
That's Elizabeth's character is she's not taken or smitten by what somebody says. It's with their actions. And Darcy absolutely like tenfold proves that.
At the end. Ugh.
I know we kind of talked about it here and there, but like I want to have a little bit of a focus on Mr. Collins, their cousin, the clergyman.
Okay.
I was not prepared for the scene. I was not prepared for the pure comedy of it. I guess autism exists throughout all these years. God, it wasn't just a haircut. It wasn't just a mullet, or the lack of eye contact, but the overall hyper analyzing everything, the not getting the fucking hint of reading the temperature of the room. Guy, he was all kinds of wrong. He wasn't a bad guy, but it really, and I'm not saying it in a disparaging way.
Oh my God.
He was really autistic.
The dinner scene where he's like, these boiled tomatoes, exemplary, puts vegetables. And I'm just like, which one of my cousins shall I think?
From that dinner scene to the private ball, him, like, by the way, going back to that ball, it was such a funny dynamic. Not to overuse that word, but where Darcy's hunting Lizzie, Lizzie's hunting Wickham at this point of the movie that she's into Wickham. Collins is hunting Lizzie, and Collins is dancing with Lizzie.
Darcy gets jealous because Collins is dancing with Lizzie. Darcy goes up to Lizzie, asks for the next dance. She's like, yes. And she's like, what? But she's still like,
God.
And then at that point, she's trying to run away because she found out that Wickham's not at the ball. So now she's trying to hide from Mr. Collins. But also like staying away from Mr. Rice. And she's like, where's this going?
The fucking dancing scene between Elizabeth and Collins, though. It was such a perfect way how they just like kind of quick cut. And he has that like that awkward stare. As he's getting ready to dance, he's like, this is what people do, right? They're on the prowl.
They just don't know how. He doesn't know how to people.
Looking through their brow. If this is another movie, it's like Mr. Collins, a serial killer.
Oh my God!
You know, and not only that, but he's not only trying to people, bless his soul, but he's trying to hold a conversation as they're dancing. And so, that type of dancing, I don't know what it's called, but they have their respective partners, but they're also kind of like do-si-do, round and round we go with someone else. And every time they go around, he's like, I just think that. They go around that people should converse going around.
Yeah.
But what I love what that particular scene did is it heightened. It was a good contrast, an impressive contrast when the next person that Elizabeth dances with is Mr. Darcy, compared to her dancing with Collins, which is it's so smartly shot through people. you get this feeling of it just being a big crowd and it's loud and everything. So that when she does have technically her first dance with Darcy, everyone falls away. Now, not literally, but like it's just them two. And there's no one else in that ballroom.
Yeah, like they're
made to seem as if they're having this electric moment
it's
connection.
like this is like the spark that kind of like
Unfortunately, though, that interaction ends with him saying the wrong fucking thing again.
Of course.
And she kind of storms off. But that's that thing that like sets it in stone that they are into each other. No matter what else everyone else is, what they're saying against one another, one another, it's just set in stone.
It's the spark that they're trying to get away from. They know they have this connection with each other. And when they're alone, they can have the conversation. They're dancing and they're kind of having like this bickering back and forth kind of thing. And they both don't know. They're trying to fight it basically. But Darcy's more like, no, I'm going to go to town. I'm just here for one day or whatever. Just to basically see you, but like say that I'm here for business or whatever.
My body's telling me yes. My mind's telling me no. Bite my tongue and let you finish your thing.
But that's how it all is. It's like this enemies to lovers kind of thing. They both kind of don't like each other. And at the end, like they're, it's like that little like, oh, that connection, that like the little spark.
Not only that, but I'm trying to do this movie justice for you guys, for everyone who's a fan of it, right? I just do this movie this is why like I get scared about these breakdowns, because I'm like, dude, these are movies that are culturally significant that people really love, and so I try not to fucking ruin these things, but I do my best. Okay, going back to the rain proposal.
Okay,
the thing that I didn't do it justice, as far as exactly what you said, and it triggered the memory of it, is even after they're screaming at one another, sharing their true feelings of why they basically love or hate one another,
why they won't work.
Absolutely unhindered, true feelings. They almost kiss.
It's the almost kiss.
Woo! I'm getting chills thinking about it. Just and the crowd fucking went wild on that one. But
it's how before he speaks within everything, he looks at her lips and then looks back at her eyes and speaks in the same thing. And I'm just like, stop, get out of here. Ooh, girl. But yeah, exactly that almost kiss.
Panties be still.
That wasn't scripted. It just happened.
Cut, and then they go fuck.
And
sorry to be so crass.
We're gonna cut that.
I'm editing this. I'm leaving it in.
No, but it's that almost kiss that kind of like changes everything to now, before having them like really dislike each other, to now it's like them fighting their own feelings for each other. Again,
a smart move in the story. I've never read Pride and Prejudice. I don't know if they have that particular scene in there. I know it's an unscripted thing for them to almost kiss, but like, other than a hand touch and a glance throughout the entirety of this movie, they're not doing anything more intimate than that. But it goes to show you that like an expression of love isn't a hugging or kissing or snogging or smashing. It's everyone's actions and the electricity between a look or a touch, so that when you finally get that kiss at the very end, when they are actually married, because kids, you don't want to do any of these things out of wedlock. It meant something. It isn't cheapened. They waited, they saved it. Like me and Alva, we waited a good 2.5 years. We never kissed. We never did anything until we got married. This is what we fucking end the episode there. Exactly an hour. Holy shit. Good night, folks. I can't. How do you come back from that? Ass wipe.
It seemed like right to do.
My God.
Anyways, but yeah, these almost kisses, these almost things. But the whole thing, of course, it's actions to show Lizzie actions of him changing from that point forward, whatever. It's the actions that change everything, to the part where he knows that her and her aunt and uncle are in town, and while she's walking back, he goes and basically beats her because he knows that if he takes a horse there, it's gonna be faster. Invites them over for dinner.
Right.
the sister being like so eager to like meet her. And that scene where they finally go to dinner.
His sister being eager to meet her.
His sister.
Georgiana.
That scene where Lizzie finally meets Mr. Darcy's sister and she's like bubbly. And when they're like, the aunt and uncle are basically like in the back of the room and they're like in the center by the piano. That's the first time that you see Mr. Darcy smile.
Oh, wow.
And he's smiling not at his sister, but at Lizzie.
Because he adores Georgiana. Because she... it was Wickham that promised his sister, Georgiana, her hand in marriage, but basically stole money, or what was the whole thing?
Darcy's dad passed away. He left them some money because they knew each other from like infancy. And Wickham, with this money, he basically gambled it all away. And for him to get more money, Darcy was basically like, you're not going to get money because you already got the money. And so he basically went to go marry the sister. Once he found out that the sister was going to have money, but he was not able to access that money. It was just directly the sister who would be able to access.
Oh.
Then
wow. See, I missed that.
That's when Wickham left, and that's left the sister distraught.
Asshole. So he loves his sister very, very much. And so when he sees that Elizabeth and Georgiana are basically getting along swimmingly, that it's like, that's his world. That's a perfect world right there.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing I do appreciate about this movie, not to bounce around way too much, but like, even though the focus is on Darcy and Elizabeth, the will they, won't they, there's still like a B and a C plot, maybe even a D plot. And it's done so seamlessly throughout the entire movie because it's them two. And then there's the storyline with Jane and Bingley. And the storyline with like Collins and the sister's storyline and the parents, and all of this is just so involved, but it works perfectly.
It's all in a way interconnected.
And it builds that world.
Because basically Mr. Collins is like the cousin to the Bennets or whatever. And Mr. Collins is with
Charlotte?
Yeah, Charlotte basically marries him because Lizzie said no, and that proposal was brutal. But
oh man, the rejection.
Yeah,
I think he even says, he goes, well, by the way, that guy cannot take no for an answer. And I think the line he says was, "Your refusal makes my love grow."
Yeah,
I was
like,
gross.
What?
Yeah,
Lady Catherine Collins is like Lady Catherine is basically the one who's like
Judi Dench, right?
Yeah, who's basically like, you need to find a wife, and you need to, like, I am the queen of all this now.
That's the other thing that triggered my fucking generational trauma, is like your parents trying to say, you have to do this, you have to do that. At the very end of the movie, there's this Lady Catherine in the middle of the night, very rudely visits the Bennets to talk to Elizabeth and say, I've heard rumor that Mr. Darcy is going to ask your hand in marriage, and has he done that already? Because he can't, because he's promised to so-and-so, which has been already arranged since their infancy.
It gets back to her that Darcy proposed in the rain to her already. My daughter is set to marry him. This has been set since infancy.
All the while, she's like also slamming the Bennett family as she's standing in their fucking home.
And that's when kind of like Lizzie was just like, I'm not having any of this. Here we go. Like, you're being disrespectful. This and that. Like, and the fact that she makes her like, if he proposes again, do you promise to say no? And then she was like, get out of the fucking house.
Yeah, she was like, no, how dare you? How dare you even ask me that? I will promise nothing, as you so blatantly disrespect my family and say all the words. She's like, I have nothing else to say to you. Scram, bitch.
Yeah. And the fact that the dog follows Lady Catherine out, I'm just like, this is like making sure like you're going to get out. That was, I think, the scene that destroyed Lizzie in a way to find out that Mr. Darcy is promised to somebody else.
Oh yeah, I mean this is like the penultimate scene. She can't sleep, and evidently you find out later neither can Darcy, and they're both stood up the entire night, and so in the wee hours of the morning.
But like the fact that like Lady Catherine did all this just to make sure that like she knows
fucking broad.
He is to marry my daughter, and that broke her to the point where like she's like, fuck this, I'm gonna go walk around being on the field and nothing, because that's where I know best to be. Kind of thing. But that last scene where he's like walking through the fog.
You told me you found a fun fact about that one.
Oh yeah. So apparently Mr. Darcy is very blind or whatever. He needs glasses or contacts. They had to put a
not the actual Mr. Like
No.
Matthew McFadden.
Yeah, the actor. They had to put a red flag behind the camera because he couldn't see where the camera was and where he needed to stop.
Because he has to walk like quite a distance.
Yeah, he has to walk quite a distance. So they had to put a red flag because he couldn't see where he needed to stop and all these things. And now I found that very, very hilarious because the scene that he's about to like, you have bewitched me body and soul and all these things, and then I love you, and I can't from this day forward I do wish not to part from you.
Fan of the movie, are you?
Yeah, I emphasize it.
It was all for you.
Yeah.
That shot, by the way, let's slow it down for a beat. Let's just live in this scene. So neither of them have slept. He walks over because she loves walking too, and connected kismet minds that they meet at this exact place, and it's magic hour. For those who don't know, in movie making, magic hour is like either from sunrise to sunset, where the sun is at the horizon. You only got a couple minutes. So I think like 6 to maybe 8 minutes of quote unquote magic hour. They don't kiss yet, but they're nose to nose after he said all the "you bewitch me body and soul" and I love you, and it's a shot on the poster, but it's their forehead to forehead. It's the perfect magic hour shot because then the sun is shining through them just in a beautiful glow amongst the England haze and everything. It's fucking wonderful.
And then right before he goes like, "you bewitch me body and soul," he makes sure to ask her like, "Have your feelings changed? If they have, I will not bug you anymore." Like,
end my agony.
Yeah, he said that instead of just going from like just the bewitch me body and soul kind of part. It's like, no, you found this respect for her that you need to know if she has changed her feelings about you.
Yeah.
If talking to her aunt has changed any feelings about you or anything, that's like your confirmation if to move forward or not. Because I felt like if this movie would have if she said no, then be like, well, damn, like maybe he'll stop, and then he'll continue with Lady Catherine's daughter. Not because he wants to, but because that's what he was obliged to do. Instead of like, the whole thing, Lizzie holds his hand, and in a way she realizes like, oh, your hand is cold. Like you walked here. And like, gotcha. That's like the only kiss that she gives him is on his knuckles. So at this point there's like still no mouth to mouth kissing, but just like,
thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
No, from her mouth to his mouth.
Yeah. Whatever. But then, like, they go to Mr. Bennett, and he goes in first.
Papa.
Then she goes in, and I think
so. Darcy goes in to talk to Mr. Bennett because again, back in those days, they have to make an arrangement, and the dowry, right?
Yeah,
is it dowry? Is that what it's called? Am I
dowry.
saying it correctly? Okay, you don't get to see that conversation, but you assume that it went well. Then Elizabeth goes in.
Elizabeth closed the door.
Her discussion with Mr. Bennett is one of the most sweetest scenes. Like, Donald Sutherland was perfect, without error, throughout this entire role. And this was his big scene, this big emotionally charged scene. In a like halfway through the movie when Collins proposes to Elizabeth and she runs off, you get to see his expression of love for his daughters, and specifically Elizabeth, because Mrs. Bennett's like, yeah, just marry Collins, come on. And Mr. Bennett goes, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if you did that. Yeah. In other words, like, go and find love.
Yeah.
No matter what we're gonna get paid or whatever, like if you find love, that's what I most care about. So this is that final conversation, because it's not really hidden or secret that the will they won't they between Darcy and Elizabeth. And multiple times throughout the film, and even in this particular scene, where the girls are like, wait, no, I thought she didn't like
We thought he hated him. I guess we are all wrong again.
And so even Mr. Bennett's like, now, I want to just, for the record, can we just be clear? Do you like him? She says, no, I don't like him, Papa. I love him.
No, she says, I do like him. I love him.
Oh, man, I thought I wrote the line down correctly. Whatever. But towards that fucking effect, and he is so happy. He's taken with it, and it starts welling up with tears, and he's overjoyed. it's a beautiful scene, and this role is just a testament to the talents of Donald Sutherland. R.I.P. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
And also him throughout the whole movie, even though he was a background character in a way.
When you
like
when you're a dad with like 6 women in the house who are all energetic, and he's this older guy, he's like, I just want to read my paper.
No, that's not like
Okay.
even like at
Those scenes are
at the ball and stuff like that. He's like, in a way, still making sure like he's consoling Mary because of the piano and stuff like that.
She wasn't good at playing.
Yeah. Instead of just like being like, whatever, I'm just gonna let you cry in the
He's
corner.
a good dad.
Like he's consoling her, but it's his disapproval to certain things. He doesn't say it, but he showed it.
Yeah.
And they're like, ugh, okay, I guess. But yeah, no, that last scene. And did you know that there's 2 different endings to this movie?
What?
Yes. So the UK, it ends right there after he gives consent for Lizzie to marry Mr. Darcy. And that's where it ends in the UK version. So they don't get to see the
lakeside.
the estate scene.
Yeah.
They don't get to see like, what shall I call you if I'm crossed or anything like that. Like that was not released.
Mrs. Darcy.
Lizzie for every day, my pearl for special occasions, my goddess divine. And then
You may only call me Mrs. Darcy when you are completely and perfectly incandescently happy. I didn't want to skip over the second best proposal, which is Bingley to Jane. It's so sweet. He's a big doofus.
Oh my God. And
when he first gets to the house,
after he realizes like to get her back, basically.
They're back in town. Darcy drags him back to town. And at this point, Jane is like, I know, I'm over Charles. I'm over Charles. If I see him, we'll just be acquaintances.
Yeah.
The awkwardness of these men in this movie. Because there is another scene, and I'll get back to this one, but there's another scene where I think Darcy finally comes to terms with his feelings towards Elizabeth, and she's at the Collins residence, and he lets himself in, and it's just utterly and majorly awkward without words, and like is breathless to a point, and he's like, says nothing. Great day, huh? And then just scrams off.
Yeah, because I think before that was it. Lizzie was telling him that like he's not a really good conversationalist, so that was his attempt to become a conversationalist.
The autism is running hard in this movie. So going back to Jane and Bingley. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he gets to the house and he also is without words. But that's because this is, by the way, and I even wrote this down. This is where Mrs. Bennet fucking annoyed me the absolute most, because she's just fucking prattling off about, we'll have a dinner, right? I remember you promised. Blah, 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 blah. Ma'am, shut the hell up. Let him do his thing, because it fucking threw him off. It completely threw them off.
He couldn't even say a word.
But Bennett can fucking shut up. And so he runs off without. They both, him and Darcy, quote unquote, leave. But they're just like at the lakeside, and they're having this really funny rehearsal. He's like, "Hey, I was supposed to," and then she's supposed to say this.
And Mr. Darcy's trying to like be Jane. Like,
yes, Mr. Bingley. And so they do come back, and he has this courage with them, and asks the rest of the family to leave the room.
He doesn't even knock. He just into the room.
What I love though about Bingley, as well as Darcy, is they do admit their faults and they apologize for it. Mm-hmm. That's huge. That's really, really huge, especially like in the male culture. Like, dudes don't apologize, blah, blah, blah. And so like, that's like one of the first things that he does is he apologizes and then proposes. Yeah. And it's so sweet.
Also that same scene, before Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy go to the door, the whole, them panicking because they're just relaxing. They just came back from town and they're relaxing in the drawing room. And then I think one of the daughters like, oh, it's Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy. Yeah. And they just go and just run around to clean.
A perfect smash cut. And they're like all properly posed.
Yeah, they're just like standing when they come in. Everyone's just like, we weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Just being perfectly posed ladies. So that's that's most of the movie. I mean, they have that proposal, and then Darcy and Elizabeth, and ending with the Mrs. Darcy, and that their final kiss, and that is the perfect place to end the movie.
Yeah.
What a fucking beautiful movie. What a gorgeous movie. Minus the zooms. I don't have anything bad to say about this movie. And for any guys out there that their lady wants to watch this movie, I think it'll be enjoyable to use, guys.
As my little research, because I did have to research certain things and stuff. So after we watched the movie, of course, that same weekend, I was seeing a lot of posts of like people, recording certain scenes and stuff like that. But the comments were like, oh my God, this and that. People were like, yeah, only someone was like, there's only one guy in my movie theater. And like the comments were just like, I took my husband thinking that he wasn't going to like it. And at the end, he loved it. He actually hates Mr. Wickham and this and that. And I'm just like,
fucking Wickham.
That's amazing, because not only in the comments am I seeing like the ladies going to go see this movie, but also taking their significant other to go see it and them liking it as well. The fact that they're involved in, like, they're sitting down there like, oh my God, no, I like it. Like, what the heck? This is a really good movie.
One of the things I enjoyed about this film, to go back to it being technical, I miss the feeling of film. When the whole entire movie opens up and it's like, of the Moor or whatever. And again, going back to the magic hour thing, like, what a beautiful title opening shot.
Yeah.
The sun rises at the magic hour right above the trees and shines in the lens, and lens flare, Pride and Prejudice, along with that just feeling of the way film looks. I don't remember when movies went like digital, and it makes more sense and it's more efficient to go digital. But whenever people are talking about filming stuff or buying a camera or whatever it is, they're like, look, it looks so clean and heightened, highest quality. I don't necessarily want that. It's the same thing how people adore vinyl over CDs. There's more of a personality to the medium itself, that it actually being a physical medium.
And I feel like it being, on film, gave it more of like a period piece to it. Because it's like,
absolutely,
I feel like if it's very much what it would be digital or advanced, all that stuff, I don't feel like this movie would have had that same feel. Of course, color grade and all that other stuff, but like, you cannot recreate that same feeling of it.
An analog feel. Yeah. And in fact, there was a movie we saw a couple of years back, to Doug's, our friend of mine, Doug's suggestion. We went to go see this like B-level horror, quote unquote horror movie called Skinamarink. Right? And in the trailer, it's meant to seem like an analog looking film. Like almost shot with like Super 8. Yeah. And as I'm watching the movie Skinamarink, I realized, this is basically a filter that they had put on the thing, where like the patterns of the grain was repeating, and I couldn't not notice it. So what I'm trying to say is, like, when people try to make something look analog nowadays, don't do it through a filter. Actually have whatever the older actual film cameras it is to shoot it. Yeah. Your audience will notice it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Don't be cheap about it.
Also,
have an appreciation for the medium.
Fun fact. Jane Austen, when she was writing this book, did not name it Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, okay. What was the first title?
First Impressions.
Is that the book that she was reading at the very beginning of the film?
Yes.
Goddamn.
So she was reading
Easter egg.
That same book, and then as I think right before it got published, it got changed to Pride and Prejudice. And I used to have a copy of it. I don't know if I still have it.
You know what? Because First Impressions and Zombies wouldn't have rolled off the tongue.
Like, we knew that was going to be made.
All right. So before we close it out, without actually playing the music, let's play our Rotten Tomatoes game. Okay. And it's your turn to guess. What is your personal rating for this movie, and then followed by critic and audience?
95, 87.
Slow it down. Hold on. You give it a 95%.
Yes.
What's the wiggle room? Why 95 and not 100%?
I don't know. There's. I think I give it 95 because I start to notice certain things here and there. I just give it that. Just, it's still doing good.
I'm putting too much spotlight on you. I'm sorry.
You did.
Okay. All right. And then what do you think critics rated it?
I think they gave it like 87, 88.
You fucking saw the thing, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
And then what do you think audience gave it?
Like a 93.
All right. Critics gave it an 87, cheater, and the audience gave it an 89%.
I didn't cheat. 89?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
That's so good.
I'm very curious to why this is an amazing movie, and maybe because like a lot of the contemporary movies I've seen have just like been fucking, most of it's been garbage. There's fewer and fewer gems, and when they're gems, they're amazing. But like it being 2005, where film is huge, and we do have original ideas. If we're doing anything, it's just adapting books, and we're not really in the comic book era kind of thing, or big. Action films are big in the 80s and 90s, but as far as like IPs, this is off the cover, a seemingly boring, stuffy movie, but an extremely well done, well performed, well shot movie. Where what was their nitpicks? 87% seems kind of low for this movie. I don't know. That's just me. I think I'm along with you. I give this movie like a 95%. It was, for the most part, like blown away by it.
Yeah. I think the reason I give it like more of a 95% is because I do like the period movies, like the Victorian era movies, or like, I don't know what it is wrong with me. If I were to pick a time to live, it'd probably be there.
Well, you can do that because you're pale. I can't do that because I'm brown.
Yeah.
All right. So to close out the show, anything else? Any last words?
I don't think I have any last words. Do you have any last words?
I don't. I highly recommend people to see this movie.
Watch it.
I don't know how long it's going to be playing in theaters, but at the time of this,
it's on Netflix, guys.
Yeah, but I want them to see it in theaters. It is on Netflix though,
yeah.
So that is cool. So yeah, watch this fucking movie. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, let's wrap it up. Let's enjoy our weekend. Thank you guys for listening. Again, if you want to support the show and you want to buy me a birthday drink, my birthday's May 4th. Send messages. Do so on Venmo at
YHST Pod.
And follow us on social media at
YHST Pod.
On Instagram and TikTok. And thank you everyone for listening. I want to give a few more shout outs once again. There are a couple more people that were hitting me up and giving appreciation for the show. So I like hearing that feedback because I can change things here and there, or it just makes me feel like I'm not doing it in a vacuum. So shout out to Greg. Thank you, sir, for giving the praise of our show. Thank you to Scott and Corey, and most thank you to Martha. Who was like, I really love your wife's sense of humor. I was like, I'll make sure not to tell her that. So
who are the other two?
Friends and family, and no, not family, friends and actually clients of mine.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for following us. Continue to do so, and please do, if you can, take the time, take a beat, hit the like button, hit the review our show. Actually, use your fingers to type some stuff out, because it does help us with the overall numbers. And we want to get those things through the roof, so I appreciate it in advance. But in the meantime, do let us know what movies are on your growing list of films that has people asking us the question.
You haven't seen that?
I'll catch you next week, folks. Bye.
Okay, bye.